does it mean to learn how to die in order to learn how to live? That's Platonic, isn't it? Philosophy itself is a meditation, preparation for death and Phaedo. Montaigne says to philosophize is to learn how to die. Seneca says he or she who learns how to die unlearns slavery. Because art, paideia, deep education, not cheap schooling, deep education is about a critical self-examination of that which is inside of us that needs to die. The fears, the cowardice, the complacency, the conformity, the assumptions and presuppositions, the prejudices and prejudgments that we have that need to go. James Brown called it, give it up, turn it loose. It needs to go. It's just like falling in love. You fall in love with somebody, something has died in you. Ann Carson understands this well in her classic. Something's died in you. The egoism, the fear, the narcissism. I know a lot of people don't undergo full-fledged death, but it's an effort because you're now entangled with a new self, and that new self means you have been transformed. And lo and behold, you walk around with a smile on your face, feeling good before Sappho's bittersweet hits you. That's part of love too, isn't it? Bittersweet hasn't hit you, it's just sentimental. We're not going to go into that, though. But connection of learning how to die. And the saddest feature of our moment, in regard to Du Bois's first question, is that so many young brothers and sisters of the younger generation find themselves so far removed from the best of their past, far removed from what has gone, the best that has gone into shaping and molding them, that all they have relation is market forces, market forces, market forces. Stimulation, titillation. They're hungry for care and nurture, hungry for something deeper. That's what the spiritual and moral awakening among young people in the last 5 or 10 years is all about. The hunger for what Ashford and Simpson called the real thing. And what is the Dion Zekan? What is the real thing? Well, it's something that is dynamic. You never get your hands on it. It's intangible, but it has everything to do with the ways in which love, the ways in which justice in motion generate hope, generate encouragement, generate a certain sense of enthusiasm for what is to come, anticipation of the not yet rooted in the ugly what is. And Ernst Bloch and others talked about it in the classic on philosophy of hope, the volume on philosophy of hope. That's what Du Bois has in mind with integrity. And our young people these days, more and more, I spend a lot of time with, in fact, I've shifted most of my lectures now to both prisons and high schools and junior highs. They're so hungry for something that pierces through the spectacle and the image. And they want something that they can hold on to existentially. And that's why the music is a fundamental battlefield. That's one of the crucial sites of the spiritual warfare. It's no accident they eliminated arts programs in the 1980s under Reagan. Trump narrowed their imagination. Attenuate their empathy. Let them just be bundles of desires that these corporations can manipulate in order to convince them to be only consumers so that the profits can go up. We can push the workers against the wall and therefore think that we are actually sustaining a democratic experiment rather than undermining its soul and ending up with a semblance and a simulacra of democracy because you no longer have citizens, you just have consumers. You can't have a democracy with just consumers. And what was the response? Oh, here come hip-hop. Trisha Rose, Brother Andre's magnificent wife, she laid it out 25 years ago. You eliminate the art programs. Okay, we're not going to produce anybody that sounds as good as Sarah Vaughan or Donny Hathaway anymore. Some of them lucky to sing in tune because they haven't been taught well. They don't have examples because they're no longer in churches. They're unchurched. Where they going to get it? They're going to get it on the radio, but lo and behold, they can make more money, but not necessarily imitating the best. But they did anyway to connect the best. That's why they went to Sly Stone. That's why they went to Curtis Mayfield. That's why they went to George Clinton. That's why they went to James Brown. They went to Aretha. They sampled it. They couldn't play it anymore. There's no instruments to learn how to play. So they had to sample it and use their orality and the genius of their language to keep the tradition alive. And what happened 15 years later? You don't even have any groups that sing together anymore. No dramatics, no delphonics, no main ingredient, no whispers. No bands like James Brown or Lakeside. It's all computers and individuals, isolated monadic individuals, you see. That's spiritual warfare. You disenable the spiritual armor that's kept people going, because usually that's all black people have had. Our voices and each other. No land, no territory, no rights, no protection from the state. But at least we had our voices that preserved our dignity, our sense of style, and our empathy. What happens when that is more and more stripped away? Ooh, then you're going to have a Hobbesian war of all against all, which is in part a description of where our precious, poor, and working class youth of color and poor youth have to live every day. And there's no serious discussion about it. Democratic Party, Republican Party. Thank God for Bernie Sanders, but that's another lecture too. Bring this to a close. First question, how shall integrity meet impression? Second question, what is honesty do in the face of deception? Thank God for the best of the artists. What does it mean to be candid in an age of mendacity and criminality? Crime has been normalized. No serious talk about drone strikes, even though crime's taking place all the time. How come? It's normalized. It's naturalized. We just come to accept it. No, that's catastrophe. You don't kill innocent people. It's wrong. It's not more than wrong. It's evil. Don't get used to evil. Indifference to evil is more invidious than evil itself, says Rabbi Heschel. He's right about that. And William James says indifference is the one trait that makes the very angels weep. He's right about that. We've normalized criminality. Last couple of days, 2 more policemen off, right? Killing the young black folk. It's normal. It's normal. Anybody know if that kind of killing was going on in Beverly Hills? Sookie now. Should be major moral outrage in every corner of the country. You don't be killing these upper-class white brothers and sisters like that. They're human beings. What about Jamal and Letitia? What about Juanita and Carlos? What about our indigenous brothers and sisters locked in these reservations? Oh, you normalize that and just keep moving. You deodorize it because you're afraid of the funk of your country. You don't want to deal with the funk. Well, you can't talk about hope without aspiring to be a funk master. Because that's what the funk is all about. Samuel Beckett called it the mess. Third question, what does decency do in the face of insult and assault? And what is indecent? Callousness and indifference toward the poor and vulnerable. Last question, what does courage do in the face of brute force? Hope is about being, doing, enacting, embodying, connected to quests for integrity, honesty, decency, and courage plus magnanimity, namely fortitude. So in the end, it's not about how sophisticated my discourse on hope was. It's about, at your funeral, she lived a life in which she was a hope. And she generated hope in others. That's Curtis Mayfield saying, keep on pushing. Not a discourse on pushing. It's an enactment in the mess, in the funk, in catastrophe, in domination, in subordination, to not allow any of them to have the last word. There is no hope without a wrestling of despair. It's like Jacob in the 32nd chapter of Genesis, where he's wrestling with that angel of death in the midnight hour, and he emerges as God wrestler. That's the definition of Israel. God wrestler with new energy. It's not discourse only. I'm not against discourse, but discourse can become such a distraction. And we live in a culture that specializes in weapons of mass distraction as well as weapons of mass destruction. And it might be the case that we lose. Now in America, to talk about losing is always a dangerous thing because we live in a superficial culture of winners, you know. We got to be with the winner, got to be with a winner. No, there is something about acknowledging that you might lose that gives a gravitas to what you're doing. And then we might be surprised by the joy of the process, and sometimes you'll be surprised by some of the concrete victories.